Neighbors rush into the smoky kitchen and freeze. Clara and Evan, her secret affair, are fused to the floor, the lube I swapped for glue sealing their shame. Firefighters tug desperately, and I just murmur, 40 years, and this is my payback. I press the iron grate down over the coals and the smoke curled up in lazy ribbons, catching the evening light. The smell of hickory usually settled me, but tonight it clung to my chest like a warning I couldn't name. Clara's heels clicked across the driveway. Too late for church, too early for excuses. She carried her purse like a trophy, chin high, eyes elsewhere. "Long day?" I asked, brushing ash from my hands. She didn't look at me. "Meetings. You wouldn't understand." I tilted the tongs against the grill, let the metal ring sharp. "Funny. 40 years and still, I don't understand where you go." She set her purse on the table with a thud. "Don't start, Martin." That word, contracts, sat in the air heavier than the smoke. I wiped my hands on a rag. Contracts don't usually wear perfume. Her eyes narrowed, lips pressing thin. "You're imagining things again." The heat from the pit flared, a snap of grease on the coals. I steadied myself, but inside my ribs ached. I smelled smoke, but not just from the pit. Our daughter's name flashed across Clara's phone, left on the counter. A message bubble lit up, half hidden. She flipped the screen down fast. I caught her wrist. "You're never late for him, only me." She jerked free, voice sharp. "Don't you dare." The grill hissed, the backyard quiet except for the low hum of cicadas. She grabbed her purse, swung the door wide, and left it slamming behind her. The smoke curled back into my face. I couldn't tell if it stung my eyes or if I was already starting to cry. Saturday mornings used to be simple. Brisket trimmed by sunup, market by 9, the first wave of regulars by 10. I hosed yesterday's ash from the firebox and watched a gray ribbon run down the driveway like a confession. Ash looks weightless until it coats everything. Clara came out in tennis shoes and a blazer, hair sprayed to a shine. Not a Saturday look for errands. She checked the mirror on her phone and smiled at herself. "Where to?" I asked, coiling the hose. "Board prep. Big week ahead." She kissed the air near my cheek, not the cheek itself. "Name the week," I said, "or stop hiding behind it." She blinked as if she hadn't heard me, then pulled a tote from the trunk. The tote had room for a laptop, a change of shoes, and whatever else people need when they don't come home on time. At the market, folks talked more than they bought. Sun tents popped open. Peaches glowed in cardboard flats. I set brisket on a plank and answered the same 3 questions about smoke rings, like always. Still, I watched Clara's reflection in the shack window as she drifted from stall to stall, practicing that professional laugh of hers on everyone but me. "Morning, Martin," said Gary from Lot C, jogging in place like a man who wanted people to see he still could. "You met that trainer over at Riverside Gym?" "Evan. He's been working with the HOA ladies. Keeps him there late." He grinned as if late hours were a virtue. "Can't say I have," I said. "Clara spearheaded the wellness push, right? Smart as a whip." He leaned closer. "She's a force. Y'all must be slammed this week." "Seems so," I said. "Big week ahead." Gary clapped my shoulder and jogged away, satisfied with his usefulness. The word Evan collected in my pocket with the change. A name puts a shape on a suspicion, even if the shape isn't fully drawn. Back at the shack, I sliced samples for a family, watched the youngest chew solemnly like a judge. Clara floated by in her blazer, phone in hand. "You need anything?" I asked. "Just space." She put her phone to her ear and walked past me without slowing. "Hi, yes, I'm 5 minutes out," she said, to whoever wasn't me. I trimmed fat and set a new log on. The pit coughed a little. The draft caught and the smoke steadied. I scraped the grate until it shone and thought of floors you clean before company you don't really want. "Dad," our daughter texted, a little balloon appearing on my screen. "Mom says you're stressed. Don't push her today." I typed and erased again. Finally, "I'm fine, busy at the shack." The lie tasted like cold coffee. Clara reappeared, chattering to someone on her screen about centerpieces and deliverables. She pointed at my signboard, BBQ and sides, as if she owned the letters, and then smiled at me like we were in a photo. Need me to run ribs to the hotel? She asked, not looking up from the phone. I'll manage, I said. Where are you running? Don't micromanage me, she said lightly, like sugar that hasn't dissolved. A neighbor couple stopped for a sandwich and left their opinion behind like a receipt. Clara's socials make you look 10 years younger, Martin, the woman said, squeezing my forearm. Love the couple brand. Appreciate it, I said, and slid the knife through bark that had taken 16 hours to earn. Couple brand. I watched my own hands, the way they didn't shake around hot metal, and wondered why they trembled around her voice. By noon, the line thinned. The sun worked on people's patience. I wiped down the cutting board, counted the burnt ends I'd saved for myself, and looked up to find Clara watching me. Not lovingly, measuring. You good? She asked. Always, I said. Tell me about the board. Where's the meeting? She tilted her head, the way she does when she's about to not answer a question. Around. Don't wait up tonight. Is Evan around? The name came out gentle, like a question to a child about a broken vase. Her smile didn't move, only her eyes. Who? Guy from Riverside Gym. Gary won't stop jogging long enough to not say his name. Martin, you can't believe everything that man pants out between burpees. She chuckled at her own joke and slid her phone into her tote. Honestly. I rinsed a pan, felt the cool water bite the sweat from my fingers. Then say where you'll be. Out, she said. Working. Big week ahead. Even smoke leaves a trace. Lies do too. I could smell something in the space between us that wasn't oak. I hauled a bag of lump charcoal to the shed and she followed, tapping her screen. The motion light clicked on and made our shadows long and thin, like string you can pull until it snaps. I set the bag down and turned. Clara, I said, softer than my first try. I'm not your enemy. You're not my manager either. Her phone buzzed, 3 short chirps. She flipped it up, thumbed a reply that typed itself, then paused. In the glass, the message preview hung there. A first name, a heart, and a fragment I couldn't quite parse before her thumb found the delete. What was that? I asked. She turned the screen toward herself, smiled sweetly in the way people do when they've already made up their minds about what you'll accept. Nothing you need to worry about. Everything I worry about starts as nothing, I said. Don't make today a thing, Martin. She brushed imaginary lint from my sleeve, a gesture for witnesses we didn't have, then walked away, slow, deliberate steps across the gravel, before I could decide whether to follow. I stayed in the shed a moment longer, listening to the low tick of the motion light cooling down. The ash smell had crept in somehow. It always does. Receipts don't lie, even if spouses do. I found it while looking for a pen. Not even snooping, just reaching into the catch-all drawer where rubber bands and warranties go to be forgotten. The paper was folded twice and smelled faintly of Clara's citrus hand cream. Vaughn and Vine, San Antonio. 2 dinners, a bottle of Cabernet I knew by price because I'd shelved the same label for a wedding once. Last Tuesday, 9:36 p.m. Last Tuesday, she'd told me Dallas. Board mixers, too busy to talk. The kitchen light hummed. I flattened the slip on the counter, the printer ink a bruise of numbers and nouns. Next to it, my phone chimed. A new mail notification on the shared tablet account I still checked out of habit. Subject line bright as a siren. You were incredible tonight. My chest tightened. The lies finally wore a face. I copied the receipt with my phone, fingers steady enough for the shutter. I didn't photograph the email screen, just read the first 2 lines and felt the floor tilt. You don't need a timestamp for a knife to cut. The front door whispered and then clicked. Clara drifted in on a ribbon of perfume that wasn't the one I'd bought her. She looked sculpted, hair pinned, blazer neat, poise perfect for an audience that wasn't here. You're up, she said, dropping her keys in the bowl. Couldn't sleep? Found something, I said. Thought you could help me understand it. She tilted her head, performing concern. Martin, it's late. I slid the paper across the counter. Vaughn and Vine, San Antonio. Last Tuesday. She didn't flinch. The board dinner moved. You know how it is. From Dallas to San Antonio, it's the same market. She smiled the way people smile when they've rehearsed. Regional partners. I turned the bottle name toward her with my fingertip. You ordered this for two. It's not a tasting flight. Her shoulders rolled back. Stall tactic. Do we really need to litigate restaurant choices? Not choices, I said. Patterns. She picked up the receipt, glanced at it as if evaluating a caterer, and let it fall back to the counter. You're becoming paranoid, Martin. It's menopause dryness and you know it. I bought lotion. You shouted at me for buying lotion. I shouted at an empty house, I said, and I remember the lotion in your car. It had a travel cap. She laughed, the sound brittle. We are not doing this. I have contracts this week. I need focus. Dallas must serve San Antonio wine now. The line came out colder than I meant, and I watched it land. She met my eyes like a fencer meets a blade. You're snooping in drawers. You're reading my emails. You want to punish me because your little shack keeps you tied here while the world moves on. It's not the shack that tied me, I said. It's the vows. Please don't be dramatic. She brushed a non-existent crumb from the counter, an executive clearing an agenda item. I'm exhausted. I looked past her to the family photo on the wall, the three of us in front of the pit the year we paid off the note, my arm around her waist, our daughter doing rabbit ears behind my hat. Smoke had softened the edges over time, turned joy into a sepia haze. Tonight the glass showed a thin line of grease I hadn't seen before, like the picture itself was sweating. Who sent the heart? I asked. What? The email. You were incredible tonight. She blinked and then found the right indignation. Are you serious? You're invading my privacy because you can't handle that I'm finally doing something with my career. My voice stayed soft, because anger at my age comes out quiet. Say his name. Enough, she pushed back from the island. You're making something out of nothing. And I refuse to stand here and be interrogated. She gestured to the paper between us. Do you know how many dinners I attend? Vendors comp things all the time. Grow up. Then sit down and tell me the truth, I said, because the truth is the only thing that keeps me from turning this into a police report, a pastor meeting, and a lawyer's appointment. She actually smiled. Threats? From the man who can't even work a group text without me? The corner of my mouth twitched. I learned brisket by ruining 20 of them and eating every mistake. I can learn anything. Wonderful, she said, reaching for her keys again. Learn to trust me. You first. We stood in that small kitchen like two people on either side of a bridge that had already fallen. The fridge motor kicked on. The lemon hand soap made the sink feel like a stage. She broke contact first. I'm taking a bath. When you're ready to stop playing detective, I'll be upstairs. On the way out, she paused and delivered an almost kind line with a sharp edge tucked inside. This stress isn't good for you. You're not a young man. The stairs creaked under her weight. Water started. Too soon, too fast for someone exhausted. Steam traced the hallway. I picked up the receipt and folded it twice. Slid it into my pocket behind my wallet where tip money used to live when tips could make a week right. Then I opened my phone and took a photo of the subject line I hadn't dared to screenshot before, framing just enough to remember it without making it official. The screen's light washed my hands the color of milk. Patterns, I said to the empty room, not choices. In the hallway, the family photo caught a smear of light and turned it into a thin, bright scratch across our faces. I wiped the glass with the sleeve of my pit shirt and made it worse. Upstairs, the water shut off. Silence rolled down the stairwell, heavy as oak. I palmed the receipt again, feeling the crease line like a cut. My thumb hovered above the tablet's mail icon, the message still visible enough to be real, not visible enough to count as evidence. I locked the screen and let the glow fade. Then I slipped the paper deeper into my pocket and closed my fist over it until the corners pressed crescents into my skin. My hand trembled on the phone, screen still warm. I laid the receipt on the counter again, flat as a card in a losing hand. The ink looked darker this morning, as if the numbers had ripened overnight. I rehearsed the line in my head. Dallas doesn't serve San Antonio wine. I had practiced it like a sermon. Clara came down the stairs humming. She wore a silk blouse the color of money, hair fixed, phone in her palm. She didn't look tired. She looked ready. "You're up early," she said, kissing the air near me. "I've got a signing later this week, so don't wait for dinner." The words struck harder than the coffee. Signing later this week. The receipt under my hand burned like coal. "Clara," I said, "we need to talk." She stopped at the island, tilted her head with that expression she used on waiters who brought the wrong side dish. "About what?" I slid the receipt toward her. "This." She barely glanced at it. "You're still on that?" "Martin, honestly. It's San Antonio, not Dallas. Tuesday night. 2 entrees, 1 bottle." She laughed, sharp and sudden. "Do you hear yourself? You're timing my dinners now? After 40 years, you don't trust me to eat a steak without a trial transcript?" My grip tightened. "I trusted you. That's why this matters." She lifted the receipt and waved it like a magician with a handkerchief. "Do you know how many vendors comp dinners? Do you know how many clients write things off? This doesn't mean a thing." "It means you lied," I said. Her eyes flashed, but her voice stayed silky. "Or it means you're inventing lies because you're slipping." She set the receipt down, close enough for her perfume to smother it. "You forget things, Martin. You misplace your tools. Now you misplace your faith in me." I swallowed, proof in my hand, yet she made me feel like a thief in my own house. "Clara." She straightened the family photo on the wall, the one I'd smudged last night. Her hand lingered on the frame as if claiming custody of the faces inside. "What will the neighbors think if you keep this up? They already whisper when you forget names. You want to be the old man who accuses his wife in the grocery aisle." My throat burned. Truth doesn't need rehearsals. Lies do. She turned, cool smile intact. "Truth is, I've carried this family's image while you hide in smoke and sauce. Maybe check the pit before it burns down your reputation." The oven timer beeped from nowhere, just a setting she'd tapped to cut me off. She grabbed her bag, pressed her lips against my cheek, and said, "I'll be home late." The door clicked. Her car purred down the street. I sat with the receipt under my palm. My proof looked smaller than her performance. The garage smelled of gasoline and old hickory dust. Ash from last week's brisket clung to the floor mats like gray fingerprints. I knelt by the passenger seat of Clara's car, the dome light a weak yellow halo over my shoulders. The glove box opened with a sigh. There it was again, the same plastic tube I'd seen once before. The cap stuck a little, a crust on the rim. Proof enough for me, but not the kind anyone else would understand. I slipped on a pair of bakery gloves, the kind I used for kneading dough in bulk, and lifted it carefully. On the workbench lay a fresh tube of clear industrial superglue. Same size, same weight. I unscrewed the caps, drop by drop filling one life with another. The smell bit sharp, chemical and certain. My pulse steadied with each squeeze. I steady my hands. This ends now. I wiped the nozzle, shook it gently, and pressed until a bead formed smooth as the original. No one would notice. Not until the moment mattered. I slid it back into the glove box, nudged the napkins into place, shut it soft. Then I bent to the concrete and brushed away the hickory ash with my sleeve, erasing tracks, erasing doubt. Clara's phone buzzed on the passenger seat. The screen lit up before it locked again, just long enough for me to see her calendar. Sign off. Thursday, 3 p.m. A clock now, ticking against me. The garage door creaked. I froze. Clara's silhouette cut across the light. "You're still up?" she asked, voice casual, purse on her shoulder. I closed the cabinet with a thud that echoed. "Couldn't sleep. Thought I'd check the car fluids." She smirked. "You and your midnight projects." She tapped the hood, then drifted back inside without another glance. I waited until the door shut, then exhaled. My fingers brushed the calendar image I'd snapped on my own phone. Not paper-proof, not yet, but a time and place I could hold. "When trust leaves," I muttered to the empty garage. "Locks mean nothing." The cabinet stood silent, holding a trap no one else knew existed. The cafe smelled of roasted beans and burnt sugar, a sweeter smoke than the pit at home but no less heavy. I sat with my back to the wall, thumb grazing the manila envelope in my jacket. Thomas arrived 5 minutes late, stocky frame filling the doorway, blue shirt rolled at the sleeves. He spotted me at once and slid into the booth with the kind of ease that said he'd done this many times. "You Martin?" he asked, voice even. I nodded. "And you're Thomas." He set down a notebook, pen poised. "Tell me what you've got." I slid the envelope across the table. Photos of a receipt, an email subject line, and a tube that shouldn't have been in her car. I kept copies at home. He flipped through each page, expression unreadable. "Chain of custody starts now. I'll log these, but you hold your own copies. Trust goes both ways." Steam curled from my mug, rising between us like a veil. It looked like the smoke from my pit, drifting, hiding, revealing. I leaned forward. "I need truth. If it hurts, it's accurate." Thomas's mouth curved faintly. "I'll shadow her movements. Discreet. You'll have something inside a week." My phone buzzed against the table. A message banner blinked before fading. "Please stop this, Dad." My daughter's name beneath it. Thomas noticed but didn't pry. "This is personal," he said softly. "Everything worth saving is," I replied. He closed the notebook with a snap. "Stay steady. Don't tip your hand. The worst thing you can do is let her know she's being watched." I exhaled, shoulders sinking. Relief felt like betrayal too, as if hiring him confirmed the nightmare I'd been hoping was just smoke. We shook hands. His grip was dry, firm, final. I left the cafe, the manila envelope now empty, the weight still pressing on my chest. Outside, the sun glared off car hoods. I couldn't tell if the heat came from the asphalt or the fire building in my life. My phone buzzed twice, screen flashing a new message from Thomas. A single file sat there with his note. "Be alone when you open this." I tapped. 12 photos slid across the screen, each one framed with the precision of someone who knew evidence had to stand in court, not just in memory. Clara's hair loose in the streetlight. Evan's hand pressed against her back as they walked toward the revolving door of the Palmetto Hotel, their heads tilted close, sharing a secret laugh. Another angle caught them pausing at the check-in desk. Evan signing, Clara leaning on his shoulder. The timestamp glared up at me. Tuesday, 9:42 p.m., the same night she told me she'd stayed late at the committee meeting. One image showed the elevator doors sliding shut, Clara's blouse unbuttoned lower than when she'd left the house. His hand brushed her hip, fingers familiar. My chest hollowed. Proof should have felt like oxygen. It burned instead. I called Thomas. He answered on the first ring. "They can't talk their way out of this," I said. My voice sounded strange, like it came from someone older, someone hollow. "Careful," he warned. I could hear him flipping his notebook. "Don't blast it yet. Let me finish the log, the metadata chain. If you go loud, she'll spin it." "Spin what's right in front of them." "Spin you," he said, steady as stone. "She'll make you the unstable one. Hold your ground. Let me do my part." I stared at the screen until the light blurred. The call ended, but the proof stayed, burning my palms. Then another notification bloomed. Not from Thomas this time. From Clara. Her profile picture was one of our wedding photos, cropped so only her face remained. Underneath, her post unfurled. "It's hard living with someone who forgets names, places, even whole nights. Please keep him in your prayers. Contracts filed this week will give us both peace." Comments poured in within minutes. "We've noticed he's been off, Clara. Stay strong. She's always carried so much on her own. Sending hugs. Prayers for you, dear. Let me know if you need anything." The likes multiplied, sympathy emojis blooming like weeds. The kitchen smelled sharp. I turned and saw smoke pressing against the window. My pit outside had flared, fat dripping on coals until the tray blackened. I yanked open the door, coughing as the smoke spilled in, clouding everything. Proof in my hand, reputation in ashes. My phone rang. My daughter's name. I answered. "Dad," she said, breathless. "Stop this. Everyone's talking." "Talking about her?" "About you," she snapped. "She's trying to cope and you're You're making it worse. I gripped the counter edge until my knuckles paled. Embarrassment is lying while holding another man's hand. Please, her voice cracked. You'll ruin yourself. I shut my eyes. The smoke stung. To tell the truth, I don't need your permission. There was only silence after that, then the click of her hanging up. The pit hissed outside. My hands trembled as I tapped through the photos again. Clara's smile. Evan's arm. The timestamp glowing in the corner like a judge's gavel. My thumb hovered over the share button. Neighbors, cousins, everyone in town could see what I saw in one instant, but Thomas's warning echoed. Don't tip your hand. So I didn't. Instead, I saved every photo twice, once to the cloud, once to the encrypted drive Thomas had walked me through. I even printed one on the home printer, folded it into the Bible on the shelf, page marked at Ecclesiastes. Proof survived. My name did not. The shack was full, the noon rush in full swing. Smoke vented hard through the roof fan, trailing in thin ribbons that carried the smell of hickory across the street. Usually that smell pulled people in. Today, I noticed more leaving than arriving. Clara leaned against the counter, laughing with a pair of women who'd stopped in for takeout. She angled her phone just enough for them to see, murmuring low. He's been forgetting things lately, bless his heart. It's been hard. They both nodded, pity painted across their faces. I tightened my grip on the carving knife. Half rack, extra sauce, I called, sliding the tray across. My ribs sold fine. My name didn't. One of the women smiled at Clara, then glanced at me. You're lucky to have her looking out for you. Clara slipped her phone into her bag, eyes glinting. Finalizing by Friday, she said to them, too soft for anyone but me to hear. My phone buzzed on the prep shelf. A text from my daughter. Dad, please stop. You're ruining us. I wiped my hands, thumb hovering before I typed. I season meat, not stories. I didn't hit send, not yet. A regular, Gary, leaned on the counter. Clara's got a real way with folks on Facebook. Keeps everybody updated, he chuckled, oblivious. Saw the post about you mixing up names. Happens to the best of us. My stomach turned. Orders ready, I said, sliding his plate forward. The crowd thinned quicker than usual. Tables emptied, chairs scraping back. Clara kept smiling, gathering takeout bags like a hostess at a wedding. I glanced up at the smoke vent. The fan pulled steady, lifting the haze higher, thinner, until it vanished. That was my reputation, burning, then gone. Night exposes what daylight denies. Rain stitched the street in silver threads as I pushed into Thomas's office. The bell over the door gave a tired clink, and a draft carried the smell of wet asphalt inside. Lightning flickered, turned the window into a mirror, and for a second I saw a man I recognized and didn't. Jacket damp at the shoulders, jaw set, older than last month. Thomas waved me back. I've got it up, he said, tapping a keyboard. Close the door. I did. The thunder rolled like a drumline warming up. On his screen, a photo opened full bleed. A balcony, 2 floors above the street, a planter box with petunias slumping from the rain. Clara and Evan stood shoulder to shoulder, his arm slung casual and practiced around her waist. Their faces were a little grainy under the outside sconce, but the language of their bodies read loud. My stomach twisted, not from ribs, but from proof. Angle? I asked. Across from the palmetto, he said. Click. Another frame. Clara's head tipped back as if whatever he said pleased her. Click. A third, her hand on his chest. I kept the frames tight, but I've got the pullbacks too. He opened an email window. The subject line had my name. In the header, a timestamp glowed. 11:47 p.m. Sending the originals. You'll want the full res plus a checksum file, he said. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Daughter. I flipped it face down on the desk without looking. The storm rattled the glass. Chain of custody? I asked. Logged, Thomas said. He pointed to a small notebook, then to an external drive labeled in his careful block letters. I keep everything twice. You do the same. Don't rename files. Don't edit. If you text anyone, send links, not attachments. I'm not showing anyone, I said, eyes locked on the balcony. Not yet. Good, he leaned back. I know you want the quick punch, but the first punch tends to miss when you throw it angry. Lightning lit the office again. The photo caught the flash on the window, and for a heartbeat, it looked like sparks were in the frame itself. I thought of the BBQ picture hanging in my study, the one where Clara and I smiled with our daughter under the pit sign. How many storms had that glass reflected without me noticing? Tell me straight, I said. If this lands in front of a judge or a board, does it hold? It holds, Thomas said. There's context. There's always context. But the sequence plus the hotel entry time plus earlier sets, it paints a pattern. And patterns convince people who don't want to see. Another vibration from my phone, a voicemail now, likely. I could hear my daughter's voice in my head even before I played it. Dad, please don't. Thomas watched me hesitate. You'll have more, he said, but this is enough to stop pretending you don't know. I nodded. The rain deepened, soft at first, then hard against the window like a hand knocking. Anything else I should do tonight? I asked. 2 things, he said. Save what I send exactly as it arrives, and sleep if you can. Tomorrow's louder. We shook hands. His grip stayed steady, unhurried. He didn't say, I'm sorry. I was grateful for that. Back home, the house felt like it had turned its face away. I put the laptop on the desk in my study, and the barbecue photo above it caught the lightning, a jagged white line across our 3 faces. The emails from Thomas stacked in my inbox. I downloaded the folder, saved it to the encrypted drive he'd helped me set up, then to a second one in the bottom desk drawer. My phone screen showed a missed call and a voicemail. I didn't press play. Not yet. I opened the photo again. Balcony. Petunias. 2 people I knew in postures I wished I didn't. I whispered into the quiet, to no one, and to the thunder. No more shadows. Then I closed the laptop. The screen glow lingered on my hands like flour dust. Court, if needed, I said. Dawn crawled in thin as paper. I didn't turn on a lamp. The study felt honest in the half-dark. No flourishes, just desk, chair, the old family photo above me. A truck rolled past outside and the frame rattled against the wall like a loose truth. On the desk, the little recorder blinked a red heartbeat. I pressed play. Static, then Clara's voice, clear as if she were standing in the doorway. He signs this week, she said, clipped, professional. Friday, the contracts are ours. Evan's chuckle followed, low and sure. Old man's lost. Let him cook. We'll run the brand. Her voice was proof, and it broke me more than silence ever could. I paused the file because my hands needed something to do that wasn't shaking. I set the recorder down, opened the laptop, and dragged the file to the encrypted folder Thomas had helped me make. The recorder's LED kept blinking like an accusing eye. I hit play again. Clara, don't text me. In person only. Evan, sure. After Friday, we won't need to hide. The words were plain, and they were enough. My phone vibrated. Daughter. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Dad, she said, already on the edge of crying. Please stop. You're scaring me. I'm listening to your mother plan a theft, I said. Don't say that. It's on tape. That doesn't mean, she swallowed. You're obsessed. You're going to lose everything. Just sign whatever she needs. Be done with this. Obsession is chasing shadows, I said. This is light on tape. Please, she whispered. People at church think you're not well. We'll see what they think when they hear Friday. The contracts are ours. I said, each word careful as a cut on hot brisket. Don't threaten her. Her breath hitched. Don't threaten us. I'm protecting what I built. I kept my voice level. Anger at my age comes out quiet. And I'm protecting you from being lied to. She went silent long enough for me to hear my own breath. I can't do this, she said, and the line went dead. I stared at the phone until my reflection darkened and disappeared. The house settled. The frame above my desk tapped the wall again, a tiny metronome counting me down. I hit play once more, listened through to the end. No stumbles, no maybes, just intention and a date. I clipped the recorder's files to a new folder, FRI_contracts, and stopped myself. One visible cue per chapter. I deleted the label and left the file name as recorded, clean and dumb, the way Thomas liked it. I forwarded a copy to Thomas with a single line. Audio received. Contains Friday declaration. Then I closed the laptop and sat still until my pulse matched the recorder's blink. In the hallway, floorboards creaked. For a second, I wondered if Clara had heard anything. The house stayed silent, the kind of silence that listens back. I slipped the recorder into the drawer, locked it, and slid the key under the liner where I'd taped it years ago. Insurance against my own forgetfulness had just become insurance against hers. I pressed play one last time and let the clip run to the sentence that mattered. Friday, the contracts are ours. I stopped the file there and left it parked on that word, ours, like a stone on my tongue. I didn't turn on the lamp. I let the room stay dark. The phone lay face up, screen still glowing on the desk like a small, captured fire. The notary's outer office had carpet the color of wet sand and air that smelled like a copier's breath. I carried my folder flat against my palm the way you carry a tray you don't trust. Level, careful, ready to catch a spill. Name? The clerk asked without looking up. Hale, I said. Martin. She typed like she was mad at the keys. You're here about a packet connected to the HOA board. I'm here to see what someone thinks I'll sign, I said. A thin smile. Have a seat. They'll call you. I didn't sit. I studied the wall of framed stamps, raised seals in glass, tiny circles of authority, each one a puckered mouth pretending to speak truth. Through the inner door, a laugh lifted, bright and familiar. Clara. A lower murmur answered. It had the relaxed confidence of a man who stretches in mirrors. Evan. Paper rustled behind the door. I could tell they were being charming. Clara is lethal when she's charming. The clerk cleared her throat. Mr. Hale, you can step up. I moved to the counter. She slid a manila envelope across, as if it might slide back on its own. A red stamp bled through the corner. Return Friday. Packet includes signature lines for catering rights, she said. Acknowledgements on the back. Catering rights to what I own, I said. I don't advise, she replied, eyes staying flat. I only process. I kept my voice even. Paper means nothing until it's tested. That's what signatures do. She nodded toward the stamp. And clocks. Paper has no pulse, yet it drained mine. I opened my folder just enough to show its spine, then closed it again. Am I required to meet anyone here? Not today. This is a courtesy handoff. She tapped the envelope with one nail. Return Friday. Through the inner door, chairs scraped. A shadow crossed the frosted glass, Clara's silhouette, posture perfect even in blur. Evan's shape followed, broader, coat flung back with that careless grace youth carries until the world teaches it otherwise. Clara's voice slipped through the seam as the door opened a crack. We'll have it wrapped by Friday. I stepped half a pace away from the counter so she'd have to look at me when she came out. She didn't. She breezed by with a smile aimed at the clerk, not at me. Thank you for accommodating us, she said. The professional tone, audience tone. Evan flicked his eyes at me like he recognized the brand on a sauce bottle he didn't plan to buy. Then they were gone, the door sighing shut behind them. Anything else? The clerk asked. Just the truth, I said. We don't notarize that, she replied. I slid the envelope into my folder. The stamp showed again through the manila like a bruise. Return Friday. 2 words in every hour between them, and now bent toward a place I refused to stand. On the way out, I texted my daughter. I was at the notary. There's a packet. I won't sign away the shack. The 3 dots blinked, vanished. No reply. Outside, the air tasted like parking lot heat and old rain. Cars idled. Life went on. I leaned against my truck and let the folder edge bite my fingers until the pain steadied me. Through the glass, I could see the clerk moving papers from one tray to another. Smoke without fire. Motion without heat. Still somehow choking. The phone stayed quiet. I imagined my daughter's screen lighting in her hand, and her thumb hovering like a small bird too tired to land. I drove home with the packet on the passenger seat, the stamp staring as if it could see the road better than I could. Every stoplight felt like a test I hadn't studied for. At the house, I set the envelope on the kitchen table and put my palm over the stamp until the paper warmed beneath it, as if heat could lift ink the way smoke lifts flavor from wood. Return Friday. They thought that was an order. I took it as a dare. I slid the packet into the drawer next to my recorder and locked it. Key tucked back under the liner where it belonged. Then I stood still long enough to hear the house breathing. In the quiet, I could almost hear the copier hum from the notary again, that thin mechanical sigh of paper feeding paper, sheets so light they weighed a life. My phone lit once, then went dark. No message. Just the reflection of my own face, older and steadier than it felt. I picked up the folder, knuckles whitening without my permission. When I stepped back outside, afternoon sun laid a bright stripe across the kitchen floor, and the smell of hickory from the pit drifted in, as if to remind me what truth actually takes. Time, heat, and not rushing when the meat fights you. The envelope was still in my hand, a stamped bruise, a clock, a promise. Return Friday, the red letters said. Maybe, I answered. The hallway felt like a church after service, quiet, emptied of warmth, every creak magnified. I stood with the small recorder in my hand, thumb brushing the ridged switch. The thing weighed no more than a matchbox, yet my arm trembled as if I were holding judgment itself. The framed BBQ photo hung there, crooked from years of steam drifting up from Sunday briskets. In the picture, my daughter had braces, Clara's smile wide, and my own hair still black. We'd posed around the pit like it was an altar. Now it would hide a different sort of fire. I lifted the frame down carefully, laid it on the hallway table. The glass was smudged, grease long since seeped into the wood. I pressed the recorder flat against the wall, just behind where Clara's face shone in the photograph. The red LED blinked once, sharp, definite, before dying into darkness. The photo smiled. I didn't. The words caught in my throat. I straightened the frame, rehung it, then stepped back to check angles. From the right side, if the lamp flickered, the glass shimmered faintly. An ember hidden in a pit of ash. The front door banged open. Clara's heels ticked across the hardwood, fast, indecisive. A suitcase clattered behind her. "You're heading out again?" I asked, voice calm, though my pulse beat in my ears. She didn't bother with pleasantries. "Board meets tomorrow. I'll be out until then. Don't wait up." She shifted her purse higher, eyes sliding past me like I was another piece of furniture. I forced a smile. Always another meeting. Always another trip. Her lips twitched into something colder than a smile. "It's called business, Martin. You wouldn't understand." She wheeled the suitcase toward the stairs. My phone buzzed. A call from my daughter. I slipped onto the porch before answering. "Dad," her voice was urgent, brittle, "please sign the papers. Don't drag this out. You'll ruin what's left of us." The cicadas rasped like warning sirens. I clenched the railing, knuckles pale. "I won't sign smoke. Paper without truth is ash." "Mom says you're not yourself." "People are worried. I'm worried. I'm myself more than ever. That's what scares her." The silence stretched. Then came a breath, sharp, hurt, before the line went dead. I stayed on the porch, phone still warm, staring into the streetlights shimmering on puddles. Somewhere inside, Clara thumped the suitcase up the steps, each bump like a gavel. When I re-entered, the house was dim again. The frame hung straight, the photo watching, its smiles frozen. Behind it, the hidden recorder pulsed once, a faint red blink that vanished as quickly as it came. A heartbeat buried in glass. Saturday started with the kind of quiet that makes a house sound hollow. I set a mug on the counter. The clink felt loud enough to wake the dead. My phone buzzed, and before I could switch off speaker, a voicemail rolled out into the kitchen. Clara's laugh, bright, practiced, unkind. "That old fool will cave." Evan's voice, smooth as gym music. "Friday or we lose it. He'll sign when the board leans." He's soft. The words settled like ash across the room. I didn't move for a count of 3. Then I did the thing I do when heat spikes, control the air. I walked to the hallway. The framed barbecue photo watched me, 3 smiles from a different century. Our daughter's braces glinting. Clara tucked under my arm. My hat cocked like I'd earned something permanent. I lifted the frame of hair, felt the recorder hiding behind it, and rehung the lie. Back at the counter, I pressed play on the file again. The recorder's LED blinked once, a tiny buried pulse. Clara again, smaller, meaner because she didn't need volume. Spine? He hasn't had a spark in years. Evan. Let him baste meat. We'll run the brand. After Friday, no more hiding. Her voice rode the room like a guest who didn't intend to leave. I opened the laptop with hands that didn't feel like mine and copied the file twice. First to the encrypted drive Thomas made me set up, then to the second one in the drawer. Chain of custody isn't romance, but it keeps love from lying about what it did. I texted Thomas, insult capture logged, link below. I sent the link, never attachments, the way he taught me. The recorder kept breathing static. I scrubbed back 10 seconds and pressed play again, because pain teaches what comfort forgets. Clara, he hates scenes. He'll fold Evan. If he doesn't, board pressure. Friday we close. I paused, stared at my reflection in the black laptop screen until it vanished. A truck passed outside. The photo frame knocked softly against drywall. Tap, tap, like a loose truth. My phone rang. Our daughter. Dad, she said, whispering like she'd borrowed privacy. Paper shuffled on her side. Please stop. This recording, the questions. People think you're not well. I'm listening to your mother call me an old fool, I said, voice even, because anger at my age comes out quiet. I'm listening to a stranger plan my life. She inhaled, tiny and sharp. She's venting. You vent when the pit won't hold temperature. Words don't. They said Friday like it's a finish line, I cut in. How many times can a clock repeat before it's not a coincidence? Even if there's something, she said, stepping through her sentence like it had glass in it. Do you win by burning everything down? Please, sign the papers. Keep your dignity. My dignity isn't on paper, I said. It's on tape. Dad, a plea, ragged. You're going to lose your church, your customers, me. You won't lose me by hearing the truth, I said. You'll lose me by pretending not to. Silence stretched thin across the line. I could hear a television somewhere behind her, a morning anchor selling comfort. She tried again. Mom's done a lot for... Answer one thing, I said gently. If I'm wrong, why hide? She didn't answer. The click was soft, but it felt like a slammed door. I stood there a full 10 seconds, phone pressed to my ear like I could still hear her breathing. I put the device down face first. Even my daughter's silence burned. I stepped outside because kitchens hold echoes. The pit sat cold, steel lid dull with fingerprints of weather and time. The grate wore a film of ash that looked light until you tried to move it. I dragged one finger through and left a gray scar straight across. The mark stayed, faint but stubborn, like truth once it's known. Back inside, I replayed the worst line because I wanted it branded. That old fool will cave. The second laugh cut just as deep. Friday or we lose it. The kitchen clock ticked through their confidence. Indifferent referee. I saved the file a third time. Paranoia is cheaper than regret. And wrote the label I wasn't allowed to keep. Do not rename. I deleted the label. Thomas's rules. I checked the backup drive light, steady, and closed the drawer on both. My phone lit again with my daughter's name, this time a text. Please, don't humiliate Mom. Don't humiliate yourself. I typed, truth humiliates the liar, not the witness, then erased it. Typed, I love you, erased that too. I put the phone back down. Restraint is a muscle. It shakes when you work it. I played the clip one last time and listened for what wasn't there. Doubt, conflict, any hint that love had complicated their plan. I heard none. Just strategy and voices that used to share my dinner table. Old fools remember everything, I told the empty room, and it didn't echo this time. It landed. I rinsed my mug and watched the brown ring go down the drain like a habit that knew the way. The hallway lamp put a thin halo on the photo glass. For an instant, I swore the LED blinked beneath it. One red eyelash, here and gone. A heartbeat buried in glass. I sat at the table without turning on a light and placed my palms flat until the tremor calmed. The house held still like it was waiting to see if I'd flinch. I didn't. I scrolled to my message with Thomas, added nothing, and kept it open. Proof that I wasn't alone, even if it felt that way. Then I looked up at the exact spot behind the frame where the little recorder slept. I didn't touch it. I didn't need to. I just let the silence build around that last line on the tape, Friday, and held my jaw tight until the urge to call anyone at all passed. By 5:30, the street had that Friday hum. Garage doors yawning open, sprinklers ticking, neighbors deciding who they wanted to be for the weekend. I stood by the pit with the lid up and no coals lit. The grate wore a film of ash like frost. I dragged a finger through and left the line there this time. No polishing lies tonight. Mrs. Peterson crossed the sidewalk with a plastic watering can and a look people save for hospital waiting rooms. "Evening, Martin," she said softly. "Saw Clara's post. Bless her heart. Tough road." "Road's the same," I said. "Just more people standing on it." She hesitated. "Sometimes it's best to sign things and rest." Her eyes slid past me to the pit, as if it might answer for me. "I sleep fine when paper tells the truth," I said. She nodded without agreement and watered the same patch of geranium twice. Gary jogged by in place. His idea of cardio started and ended at our mailbox. "Bored at 6, he puffed. "Don't let him stress you, brother. Just keep your tone calm. Clara says you've been worked up." "Clara says a lot," I replied. He laughed like we were sharing a joke I didn't know. "Hey, we all forget things. Happens to champions too." He gave me a thumbs up and shuffled away. My phone buzzed. "Don't come to the board, please." My daughter's text stacked under 2 missed calls I hadn't felt. I typed, "I won't sign a lie just to quiet it," and didn't send it. My thumb hovered until the screen went dim. Across the street, 2 couples slowed their dog walk so slowly it almost stopped. One whispered, "Badly," and I caught the word, confused. The other said, "He used to be so steady." Like steadiness was a past tense you could throw away with the trash bins. A white SUV rolled up to the curb, and a woman I knew only as Rules Rita stepped out in a blazer the color of a warning sign. She wore an HOA badge clipped to her lapel, the way some men wear medals. "Mr. Hale," she said, all business, "we've had informal feedback about smoke management and late-night traffic from your establishment. Purely preliminary, of course. Compliance review tonight." "Purely preliminary sounds like you've already written the ending," I said. Her smile was a small rectangle. "No, sir. We're process-driven. We recommend cooperation. Signatures often help move things forward." "Forward to where?" I asked. She glanced at my dark pit and wrote nothing on a clean pad. "Best to bring no drama this evening. The board appreciates concision." She folded the pad she hadn't used and left. My name felt lighter than ash. I shut the pit lid and it rang like a low bell. Another neighbor waved from a driveway and pointed at his watch. I pointed at mine, which wasn't there. The front door creaked as I went inside. The house felt smaller, the air tight as a shirt from a younger time. I checked the wall clock in the kitchen, 5:56 p.m., and listened to the tick chase me down the hallway. The framed barbecue photo caught a smear of the setting sun and turned it into a thin, bright stripe across our smiles, like a cut. My phone buzzed again. "Don't go." Then, a second message. "Please, Dad, you'll make a scene. Let it pass. Let her have this." I typed, "She already has everything that isn't nailed down," and erased it. I typed, "I love you," and erased that too. I stepped back out to the porch to breathe real air. Mrs. Peterson hovered at the hedge in a way that said she wanted to walk over and couldn't stand the walk. Gary jogged past again, slower, and gave me a look that wasn't unkind, just inaccurate. Rules. Rita parked 2 houses down as if she owned gravity. 2 teens on bikes coasted by, whispering. "That's him," one said. It wasn't cruel, it was classification. My phone rang this time. I answered. "Dad," my daughter said. Don't go. Don't give them more to film. I'm not the one who invited cameras into a marriage. I'm asking you, her voice softened. For me. For you, I said. I'll keep my hands still and my voice calm, but I won't vanish. You'll make it worse. It's already worse, I said. The board won't fix that. Truth will. Truth doesn't pay fines, she said. I heard her sniff, trying to make the sound smaller. Please. The kitchen clock ticked from inside, louder now, like it had moved closer. I looked through the doorway. 5:58 p.m. I won't sign a lie just to quiet it, I said, choosing the line I hadn't sent. I can't watch this, she whispered, and the call ended like a door eased shut. A breeze lifted ash from the pit, and it drifted across the porch. A gray confetti for a parade I wasn't in. Someone down the block laughed at something that had nothing to do with me. Another car door thunked. Sprinklers hissed alive. The street arranged itself around my decision and found it ordinary. From the kitchen, the wall clock clicked on the minute. I checked it again. 5:58, the hands kissing 12 like they were practicing for 6. I slid the phone into my pocket without replying to the text still glowing there. The house seemed to slope inward, the rooms tilting toward that clock as if time had weight. Board at 6, Gary had said. Compliance review tonight, Rita had smiled. Bless her heart, Mrs. Peterson had blessed. Don't come, my daughter had begged. I stood on the threshold and let each phrase settle where it wanted. Then I took one breath and another. Because you can control the air even when you can't control the weather. The neighbors' pitying looks hung across the street like laundry that wouldn't dry. I reached for the doorknob, then stopped and turned once more to the wall clock. 5:58 p.m., steady as a metronome. The house felt smaller. I let the door drift shut behind me and kept my reply inside my chest, where no one could screenshot it. By the time the sirens found our street, the evening felt overdone. Heat stuck to skin. The air heavy with oak smoke I'd coaxed big on purpose. I'd fed a damp log and opened the stack until the pit roared, pushing a dark ribbon through the vent that sent everyone outside. Not panic, attention. Neighbors drifted to the curb, phones lifted, faces split between pity and appetite. The HOA's rules. Rita planted herself by Mrs. Peterson's hedge like a referee who'd finally gotten her big game. Somewhere behind me, my wall clock clicked over the hour. Saturday, near 7. Inside, a thud upstairs. Then the sound you never forget. 2 people scrambling and failing at the same time. A firefighter shouldered past me with an axe. Another kicked the back door open to vent the smoke. 2 on the second, someone called. The crowd went quiet in the way crowds do right before they decide what they think. They came down the stairs under red helmets and steady hands. Clara and Evan, clutched together, breathless, covered in sweat and the kind of shame you can't towel off. Sheets thrown around them for modesty. Panic where poise used to live. Clara saw the line of phones and tried the old performance anyway. It's not, this is, there was smoke. Evan choked, eyes wet. Please, this hurts. This, a firefighter braced them. Stop moving, he said, patient like a teacher with scissors. You 2 are bonded with something. We have to work slow. Neighbors gasped, then the gasps turned into a rustle of whispers. Even the cicadas held a beat. I stepped onto the porch rail, folder under my arm, and found my daughter in the crowd. Her face was pale in the flashing lights. She met my eyes, pleading. Dad, please, don't. You asked for proof, I said, quiet enough to land. Watch. Mrs. Peterson lifted her phone higher, steadier than anyone else's. For once, she didn't speak. The firefighters worked with a focus that made everyone else look sloppy. A medic handed over solvent, the kind that loosens the impossible. One of them looked up at me. We'll separate them, he said. It'll sting. Truth does, I answered. Clara's eyes snapped to mine, cracking open a decade of practiced contempt to show the fear underneath. Martin, don't let them, please. People are watching. They watched when I cooked, I said. They'll watch while I stop. A groan, a clean peel of fabric, a rush of breath, the careful kind of tearing that still tears. The firefighters got them apart, wrapped both tighter, guided them down the steps. Evan tried to twist away from the phones. "No pictures," he said weakly. "You're in public," Rules Rita said, not unkind, just correct. My daughter pushed through to the bottom step, tears bright. "Mom, say something." Clara tried a line, and it died on her lips. She looked at me instead. "I'm sorry," she whispered, and the porch swallowed the words and gave them back louder. "I'm sorry." I let the apology hang. Smoke curled between us and thinned as the pit settled to coals. I opened my folder. Not a fanfare, just a page turned on a long story. The manila carried one thing that mattered, and I took it out slowly. The envelope with the county stamp, my name printed where it counted. I held it high enough for Mrs. Peterson's lens and low enough for my daughter's eyes. 40 years end here, I said. Heart pulse, steady. A firefighter's clipboard scraped against the porch post as he signed his incident line. He glanced at the envelope and nodded like a man who'd seen worse and better on the same street. "You filing tonight?" he asked quietly. "Filed," I said, tapping the stamp. The ink looked like a bruise finally named. Clara reached for my wrist, then stopped, fingers curling into the sheet. "Martin, please, this isn't you." "I've been me the whole time," I said. "You've been rehearsing." She sagged. The public part of her, chin, posture, camera smile, collapsed first. Then the private part. Eyes, breath. The part that used to find my hand in dark theaters. She sobbed, not pretty, not controlled, and it hit the crowd harder than any proof would. People looked down. A few lowered their phones. Evan tried to pivot grief into exit. "This is between you two," he said, already edging sideways, sheets clenched like a prize. "Let's go, Clara." A firefighter blocked him with one palm. "After the medic clears you." Rules. Rita, who never missed an opening, took a small step forward, badge catching the porch light. "There will be a board review of the incident," she said to no one in particular, "and potential violations related to—" "Rita," Mrs. Peterson said without looking away from her screen, "read the room." My daughter slid to my side, shaking. "Dad," she said, voice small, I thought you were, I thought—" She didn't finish. She didn't need to. "I know," I said. "It's over now." Clara lifted her head, eyes red, makeup smeared into maps of where she'd been crying. "I'm sorry," she said again, louder, and it carried this time. Over the lawn, past the hedge, into a dozen feeds. "I did this." There it was, on-page remorse. Not staged, not constrained. A collapse you could feel in your own joints. Evan looked at her like she'd broken an agreed-upon rule. "Clara." She shook her head so hard the sheet slipped, and a firefighter readjusted it with quick, practiced compassion. "Don't," she told him. "Don't speak for me anymore." The medic finished taping gauze, gave a short nod. "Separations are clean," he said to his crew. "We're clear." The crowd exhaled in one sound, the way people do when they've been holding their breath through someone else's life. Phones lowered, then some lifted again, because that's who we are now. I set the envelope on the porch rail and smoothed it flat. My hands didn't shake. The pit's smoke softened, turned from accusation to a ribbon that made the evening smell like it used to. Time, heat, patience. My daughter touched my sleeve. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for not believing." "I know," I said, and meant it more than I expected. "You were doing the best you could with the script she wrote." Clara reached toward us again, a gesture that used to bring us all closer. It didn't now. "Please," she said, broken clean. "Don't make this worse." I looked at the stamp one last time, and at the faces of the people who'd seen me at my pit for 20 years. "Paper means nothing," I said, voice carrying because it had to, "until it's tested." The firefighter nearest me gave the smallest smile a working man can spare in public and tapped his clipboard. "We're clear," he repeated to his crew, which is another way to say, "This part's over." The sirens wound down. The crowd thinned into clusters of talk and long looks. Mrs. Peterson stopped recording and lowered her phone like it weighed more now than when she'd raised it. Rules, Rita wrote nothing. The smoke kept rising, thinner and kinder, like it remembered its job. My folder closed with a quiet click. I stayed on the porch rail, the divorce envelope under my palm, the night finally choosing a side. Monday came with a sky rinsed clean. The shack smelled like work, salt, pepper, hickory, meat waking up to heat. I lit the pit steady, vents half open, coals glowing the color of held breath. No showmanship, just time and fire doing what they promise when you don't lie to them. I unlocked the front window and looked out at the sidewalk. A few neighbors had already formed a loose line, hands in pockets, talking low the way people do when they've decided not to pick a fight with the morning. Mrs. Peterson gave a little wave and didn't lift her phone. That was its own apology. The bell over the door jingled. Rules Rita stepped in first, blazer pressed, clipboard squared against her chest. Behind her, a younger man in a polo carried a small stack of plain envelopes. "Mr. Hale," she said, voice clipped. "As discussed at the board, we've issued a finding and a fine for last week's smoke event." She slid an envelope across the counter, seal outward. I turned it in my hand, just enough for the date to catch the light. Monday, 9:12 a.m. A clock on paper, the only one that mattered now. "I'll pay what's fair," I said, "and stop what isn't." Her mouth twitched toward human. "Compliance achieved," she said softer. She glanced toward the street. "Situation appears resolved." "It is," I said. I didn't add how much it cost. She nodded. "We'll be," she searched for a word, "neighbors." Then she went, leaving the door to close itself. I tucked the envelope beneath the counter, atop a thicker one that didn't need to be shown again. Filed was filed. The stamp on the inside copy had already done its work. My daughter stood in the doorway then, one hand around a to-go tray, the other braced on the frame as if she might flee. She wore no makeup, hair pulled back, eyes red from the kind of night that changes the shape of a week. "Brought you coffee," she said, not moving farther in. "Set it there," I said, tapping the counter. My voice came out even. At my age, feeling lives under even. She set the tray down, swallowed, and found my eyes. "Can I help serve today?" The question sat in the air like a bird deciding whether to land. I wiped my hands on a towel, looked at the line outside, looked back at her, and nodded to the apron hook. "To feed honest," I said, passing her the apron. "You don't need permission." She tied the strings with fingers that shook, then steadied. "I'm sorry," she said, too fast, like she'd rehearsed on the drive. "For not believing. For the things I said. For letting her." I lifted a palm. "We're open." It wasn't dismissal. It was a door she could walk through as many times as she needed. The first customer stepped forward, cash in hand. "Full plate," he said. "Whatever you'd serve yourself." "Brisket, no sauce," I said. "Let the meat talk." He nodded. "That's why we're here." My daughter worked the register with the caution of someone rebuilding trust with buttons. "Name?" she asked, and when he said it, she smiled like she remembered him from a long time ago, and maybe she did. I plated brisket, sliced hot and neat, the blade describing a rhythm my hands had learned by forgiving themselves after every mistake. The smoke rose steady, a ribbon instead of a storm. The bell chimed again and again. People took their trays and drifted to the picnic tables, backs straight, eyes meeting mine without the dip that had crept in over the last weeks. Between orders, I stepped to the side window and cracked it wider. Outside, the ash on the yard pit had been brushed clean. Inside, the framed BBQ photo hung straight over the hallway, glass clear. I'd left the recorder in a drawer. The house could breathe again. My daughter slid back to me between customers and bumped my elbow with hers like we used to do when the rush felt bigger than the staff. "You okay?" she asked. I checked the fire. "Better than okay." I touched the thicker envelope under the counter through the wood, not needing to see it. 40 years end here, but the flame holds." She nodded, blinked quick, then turned to bag an order with hands that no longer shook. The line moved. The chatter warmed. Even Mrs. Peterson laughed, quiet, grateful. Near noon, a man I didn't know well but had seen 100 times leaned in. "Heard the board went your way," he said. "It went the way of the rules," I replied. "That's all I asked," he grinned. And the other part? Ended, I said. I didn't say the word divorce. You don't season certain truths in public. He tapped the counter, a benediction, and carried his tray out into the sun. When the rush dipped, I took a second to breathe in the room. The pit heat had settled into that sweet pocket between effort and ease. The smoke ribboned out the vent like handwriting I could finally read. My name felt heavier again, in the way a name should weigh, earned. My daughter leaned on the counter, eyes on the line that had reformed of its own will. "You need me tomorrow?" she asked. "If you want the work," I said. She smiled, small and true. "I want the truth." Then she grabbed the next ticket and called, "Full plate, no sauce." I carved. Outside, the Monday sky held steady. The envelope under the counter stayed where it was, date stamped, simple. No more clocks, no more rehearsals, just the job and the people who showed up for it. I slid the last plate of the hour through the window and looked past the steam at the sidewalk, where the line still curved toward the corner. I closed the window halfway against the heat, left the bottom gap for the smell to do its quiet work, and watched the smoke rise the way it was always meant to. Honest, patient, steady. The smoke rose steady at last, no longer hiding lies but carrying the quiet proof of who I was. Patience had cut sharper than anger, and justice held firm without my fists ever lifting. 40 years folded shut with clean ink, and the flame waited, steady and sure, ending on a soft crackle. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Type 1 if you resonate with this story.